Okay. So these are two games that I was playing against green-white tokens with the green-black Aristocrats list, and it should show a little bit of why Vile Redeemer was. I mean, I've won both these matches. You'll see game one and game two with Vile Redeemer, and it's why I include it in the deck. So I'll just kind of let it go for a little bit. You can see the turns until we get to the point where it's relevant. So trying to remember what all happened, but I got a pretty decent draw. This guy went after my thing oddly and made my blister pot a 2/2, which I didn't think was correct, um, but the game plays out pretty much as you'd expect. He plays out this Nissa, I get into it. He doesn't really have great blocks for it. I'm pretty sure he plays out a Gideon. And I'm just kind of holding the cutthroats because you want to protect him as much as you can until you can either combo. You still don't want to really show him. As soon as I can, I play this Liliana out, and I just sack the blister pod to it to flip it. And then I decided that discarding the other husk was better than just playing it out. And eventually what happens is he just gets kind of far ahead. Like, it seems like I'm in a good spot now, but he gets to a point where he's farther ahead. And I think this game he gets really greedy and he doesn't go for his Westvale Abbey until pretty late. So I don't really think this deck has a great way of dealing with it. So he plays this Avacyn. Okay, now we're getting close to the turn, so into this. So he gets it. So he's gonna flip his Avacyn next turn, right? So this is where I'm pretty much screwed on board, and he can tell that because I'm gonna lose like all my board, basically minus the husk on my upkeep, and then I'll get like a blister pod token. Yeah, just one. And he finally flips his Abbey, but he misplayed here because he didn't attack my Lily. We'll see that in a second. He just goes. They're both going into me, and I'm like, sure, I'll take it because I'm not dead. So, and then, so I basically have this turn, like I have to win like this upcoming turn, otherwise I'm gonna lose. So I start digging. I sacked off the Scions for mana because my game plan is to sack off both the Scions, then tap this Hissing Quagmire to the Duskwatch Recruiter to look at the top three and get a creature just to get some draws. So I stack the Scries. Basically, I just do this, and then I want it so then the Scries happen after I look at this card because I'm going to want whatever. I want to put the creature that's going to win me the game, or the thing that's going to win me the game on top. So I do this, then I start scrying, and basically I just keep sending all these cards to the bottom because none of them will win me the game, and I need them to win me the game this upcoming turn. And then I believe I pass here. So his triggers go on the stack, and I start sacking stuff to the husk because I want it to survive. And I think I only sacked one thing here, and that might have been wrong. I could have just sacked everything minus these three, and then the simultaneous or these four, and then the simultaneous triggers would have gotten me the same amount. But I just went through this, just sacking stuff, looting or looking for another creature again, and I'm leaving up mana for a File Redeemer through Blister Pod's token and these three lands here. So I just keep sending stuff to the bottom. None of these are gonna win me the game. Takes damage. My husk gets over the Avacyn. At this point, I let everything die. Again, I probably could have sacked these two, or just the Dusk Watch, because you'd want to get the token from that for the mana. But I could have probably sacked the Dusk Watch before this happened. It doesn't really change much, though. So it wipes the board. Billion triggers go on the stack. Doesn't really matter the order. I tend to do it like this. If just because I don't know. The pod token comes in, and then I just start scrying because I'm looking for Vow Redeemer because that's the only card that could possibly get me an out in this situation. And my opponent made a lot of mistakes leaving that Lily on board, and you'll see why in a second. So I find out Vow Redeemer. I just top it a bunch of times, and then we go through all these. He's already flipped. The second mistake he makes, and I wouldn't expect most people to make this mistake. I don't know why he didn't block. Well, I guess he thinks that there's no possible way I have lethal with an attack with Husk. He might just think I'm like going into it. But basically, what I do here is I buy back the Cutthroat using the Lily minus, and then attack into him with just the Husk. And he doesn't declare blocks. Now I think it would have been fine if he had block because I'd eat the Avacyn and then I'd gain some life, but I certainly wouldn't have like been okay overall with an Ormondal on board. So when he declares no blocks, I just flash in this Vow Redeemer, sack the thing for mana so then I can pay the colorless cost. And there we go. We got enough creatures for lethal now because he's going to take 5 damage from the sacrificing, or 6 damage from the sacrificing. And then obviously the Husk gets huge. And so there you go. So that was game 1 with that. And then we can quickly go and look at game 2. So this one's a little bit the same. This opponent was extremely salty afterwards. It was kind of funny. Just me getting in, trying to fight off tokens. He makes this hanger back absolutely enormous, I think, this game. I just go ahead and Coco here. Cutthroat and Lily. I just chumped to flip the Lily. I don't know. I used to think that flipping Lily wasn't as important as I realize it is now. Because even if you just minus her immediately to get like a Catacomb Sifter back, it's just insane. So I just play out this stuff, discard that swamp. I actually think he ends up drawing with his Nissa here too, and I still get through it. So I have Westvale now, but 1, 2, 3, 4. I know that as soon as he gets Westvale, I'm gonna work much like I can't win from that spot if I just Westvale. And also he's got white, so he showed me Declaration in Stone. So he could just Declaration in Stone something. He might have Clip Wings after the sideboard. I just kind of didn't want to commit to that yet because it's an all-in plan. So I just kind of wait. And then again, he doesn't go for Ormondal right away. That might just be because he knows I can flip mine. I don't know. So I just kind of keep stalling, playing stuff out, making my board super wide. Making him discard. I think by now, if I were him, I would have flipped my first Westvale at least. But he decided not to. I'm just kind of digging for stuff, so I do this main phase. I'm trying to find extra cutthroats so that I might just be able to win to triggers. My board gets huge. Again, I think I just scried to look for something. Oh no, I was doing this to flip the lily, and I screwed up the first time, and I sacked a token. I wasn't thinking that doesn't flip lily, so I was just trying to flip the other lily. I think I minus her. Yep, just to bring back the blister pod. So he brings in Avacyn. So now we're almost in the same situation, and it ends in like a very similar situation. So I think, yep, he flips his Westvale. So this time I have a much bigger board. Um, so he makes it so he's gonna flip his Avacyn, and I believe this time he's smart. He goes after Lily, knowing that last time I basically won because of that. Uh, I don't know. It probably wasn't relevant because he didn't block, but it certainly would have been if he did. So he just goes at. He gets me down to 2. This is where we do the same thing we did last time. So there we go. We untap. All of his triggers go on the stack, and I start sacking things. This time I have 2 husks though, so after I pop off the mana, the 2 scions, you'll notice that I keep both of the husks alive this time because once his Avacyn does damage, it's going to kill everything that he has as a blocker besides his Avacyn. So he'll only have 1 blocker. So this guarantees I can get in with a husk, barring anything crazy. Tap my Lone Dryad. I did a couple draws because we're just basically looking for Vile Redeemer. Anything else isn't going to really help. Not even company helps in this situation. So we just kind of dig for stuff. And then, of course, I find my Vile Redeemer quickly this time. And I just top it a bunch. He goes to 27. Now I let his thing flip. It kills everything minus my husks. Put a bunch of triggers on the stack. I just top all this after my blister pod tokens come down. Draw the Vile Redeemer. I left up just enough mana to cast it this time because I had way more mana, so I wanted to be able to sack these to the husks to get extra damage, and knowing that I'm not going to have a cutthroat back. So just go to combat. I attack with both the husks because he has to take one of them. So, and this is where the rage happened. I don't think MTGO shows you it, but in replays, but. So I had sacked 7 creatures, so I put 8 creatures on board, and that's good for a whole hell of a lot of damage. Oh yeah, he does. There it is. I just kind of was like, oh well, I did scry a lot. It was kind of lucky though. I only played 2 of them, but I just thought it was funny, and he was not happy. Get my husk. I just kind of BM sack extra things, and he just scoops. But yeah, so I don't know. I take my reasoning on the Vile Redeemers is so I took out a Blister Pod and a Lone Dryad for it. So I have 3 Blister Pods and 3 Lone Dryads in the main board rather than 4 and 4 to put in the 2 Vile Redeemers. Other than that, my main board list is exactly the same. I think I have a couple differences in sideboard, and that's just preference stuff. But you adapt that to whatever metagame you're playing in. But I think for the Vile Redeemers, you lose a small percentage of your explosive draws by taking out the 1 pod and the 1 Loam Dryad, but you gain a lot of resilience. There's a lot of decks playing Languish, and Vile Redeemer has Flash, so you can flash it in then. There's a lot of times where like you might just be trying to pressure them without the Ormondal plan, so you just attack with a husk into them or into someone else. And if you have a Vile Redeemer in hand, there's times where you can flash it in after sacking away the board if they're tapped out and just kill them if they don't block their husk. This is a really powerful effect to put a lot of creatures on board, and if you play it right, it just doubles your triggers effectively. If you have a lot of non-tokens, which the deck plays a lot of things you're cool sacking, so that's my reasoning. I found the two to be really good. This was the first game that I played with the deck with the Vile Redeemers in that it like really showed the power of the card. So that's why I'm showing you this one. But um, it's been fine in other places too. It's in my opinion, it's worth it, and it's something you can Coco into, even though it's not as good. It's just a 3/3. It's fine. Um, so yeah, I really like it. You guys can test it out, decide if you like it or not. I think it gives the deck a little bit more extra reach and a little bit more resilience to some of the stuff that's main boarded now. So yeah, um, yeah. Just let me know your guys' thoughts, and hopefully the deck treats you well. All right, later.